All right, hello and welcome to episode 24 of the From the Vault podcast. I am, as always, your host, Nathaniel Forsyth, and with me, as always, this week is my co-host, Holt Hauser. How are you doing?
Yeah, pretty good, man. Had a bit of a long day, but excited to chat some Magic, as always.
That's my constant general state of being.
Got some reasonable news. Things are in the pipeline for some more World Cup Team Scotland stuff. You might see us in some new related content. I can't spoil it just yet.
Okay.
But things are in the pipe. And not by Team Vault. Maybe a bigger name out there. Something sponsored by a bigger company that's a part of Magic.
Wow. Exciting. I don't know any big companies that are a part of Magic.
Yeah, me neither. But
that's cool.
It should be pretty cool.
Yeah, it's exciting that you've got this stuff coming up. We just had pre-release weekend. This should come out just after release weekend, but we are recording it on the Wednesday just after pre-release. So Holt, you didn't go to pre-release because you have no dedication.
Well, actually, it's because I'm a sad sack.
Oh.
And I decided instead I should spend my weekend in Lake District shaving my beard.
Yeah, Holt has no beard right now, and it's just deeply disappointing.
Yeah, I've had a beard for about 3 years.
Yeah.
But, alas, I got invited to a murder mystery, actually. Have you ever done one of those?
No. I've killed people, but I've never, been involved in the mystery.
Right. Well, so... Murder mysteries are pretty cool. It's kind of like a weird, casual role-playing game.
Sure, okay.
I'm sure you know the concept behind it. The night set up, you guys are all, in theme, it'll be set in a time and place, whatever. Ours was set in the 40s.
Okay.
Late 40s, early 50s, so just post-war. And I realized no one in the late 40s, early 50s had beards.
No.
Facial hair was extremely unpopular.
Yeah, it didn't exist until the late 70s.
Yeah, pretty much. So, well, actually, late 60s, early 70s, but whatever. So I decided to shave my beard. And now, literally everyone is afraid of me.
Yeah.
I went to the vault today, or not today, this past week, and literally some of the people who work there, like Ty, didn't recognize me. They're like, who's that? I was just like, hey man, how's it going? And they're like, what? It was really disconcerting for a lot of people.
Yeah, I can confirm it's very disconcerting.
But you actually did go to pre-release.
I did go to pre-release because I have dedication.
And you didn't shave your beard.
No.
Or your facial hair in general.
No.
So
I'm just living my life in the best way I can, unlike some people.
How was pre-release, man?
It was a lot of fun. I played a bit online before coming down to the actual pre-release, and my experience had been that...
Wait, are you some kind of tryhard?
Well, no, I just like playing Magic.
What? You're playing online, prepping for the pre-release?
It's less prep and more just ooh, sealed queue's alive. I'll play a sealed.
Oh, I see.
So, yeah, I played a couple of leagues of the sealed, and my experience there was you can splash a bunch of colors and play this greedy, blue-black base control deck and kill everybody. Mm-hmm. And then when I got to the pre-release, they were doing... So the pre-release was seeded packs.
Yeah,
So you picked your guild you wanted to be.
They used to have those as well.
Yeah.
You used to choose a faction name.
They've said that they want to try and only do it when there's a good reason to.
Mm-hmm.
So a guild-based set, or if they went back to Tarkir, for example, you'd probably be able to I want to pick a Mardu pack.
Yeah, for sure. Get on my pony back.
They don't want it to just be hey, do you want to pick white, blue, red, green, or black kind of thing? Because those tend to be which one has which one's the best in this set?
Yeah.
This is the same, but at least it's motivated by some kind of flavor.
Yeah.
So I read at the pre-release, all of the Dimir packs are gone. Because the word got out that Dimir is really good, so everyone's already picked up Dimir. So I picked up Boros, because I'd heard that the best Boros decks beat everybody.
Nathaniel, you picked Boros.
Yeah.
My son.
Yeah. Then I played Naya, because I opened up a Trostani and a Camaraderie and an Imara and and a Conclave Cavalier and a bunch of just insane green-white cards.
Sick.
I went 3-1. It was alright. I lost in the finals to an opponent casting Explosion for 5.
So deal 5 damage or something, draw 5 cards?
Yeah.
That seems pretty strong in the sealed.
Yeah, it definitely put the game away.
Right.
But yeah, so far the sealed environment seems okay. I've heard mixed things on Twitter. Some of the pros are saying they think it's too similar to Ixalan, which I haven't really experienced so far. But maybe it's just because I'm being blinded by the fact that the cards are a lot higher power. But I can definitely see the aggro decks being too good when you get them, but flopping too often to make Sealed a consistently fun experience.
Right.
Like, Ixalan Sealed was kind of awkward, right? Because the multicolor decks were great, and you could build them out of like a reasonable number of Sealed pools consistently.
Mm-hmm.
But the aggro decks were better.
Yeah.
But you couldn't consistently build them out of every Sealed pool.
Exactly. And I don't know, like, my memory of everything to do with Ixalan Sealed was Bogles. And I hated it.
Yeah, there is an amount of
Jade
that.
Guardian,
And there's
One with the Wind.
There's some amount of, like, there's the Hexproof Flyer in Dimir, which is, like, real pain to get rid of.
Yeah, I was about to say, I've not played. I didn't play any tournaments, obviously, because I was away over the weekend. Yeah. And I've had a super busy at the beginning of the week, so I've not been able to run a Sealed Cube. But I was actually watching LSV's video on Channel Fireball, and there was a couple matches where he came up against that card, and he's just like, oh, well, I guess there's nothing I can do about this.
Yeah.
It's a 3/3 Hexproof Flyer, and I'm playing Dimir, and I'm dead, because I can't remove it.
That was kind of my experience to some degree. I would be sitting next to people, and it's like someone would play that against them, and they're like, alright, cool, I'm playing a control deck, I guess I die.
Yeah.
So there's some amount of, like, weird Boggles shenanigans. I don't think it's as much as there was in Ixalan, but...
Take Hexproof out of the game, Wizards.
That would be okay. I would be okay with that.
I'd be pretty okay with that, actually. I like situational Hexproof. I like Ojutai.
Yeah. Ojutai or...
Palladium Wars.
Yeah, that's a pretty good example of it. Where it's like, you're guaranteed to get something out of your creature, but after that it's not safe anymore.
Yeah.
How do you feel about stuff like Prognostic Sphinx, where it's like...
I am a big fan of Prognostic Sphinx. I think on Prognostic Sphinx there was... I don't know, I played games with that where, like, in lower powered format, like, it wrote that weird line where it was like, sometimes it would show up in Constructed.
Sure.
It was almost there, but then, like, in other, like, Limited, it was just, like, bonkers. It's like, right, I can just never kill this. Like, this sucks. I am
definitely against some of the places they've been going with Hexproof, where, like, they've just been printing very, like, bald-faced, like, no, you can't interact with it cards. Like, every time they put an evasion ability on a Hexproof creature, like Vine Mare or Carnage Tyrant or Nightveil Predator, I'm just like, oh, thanks, why? This just makes for very unfun gameplay. I understand that one of the reasons for it might be that they're trying to... Like, one of the ways that your, like, big dumb green creature deck in Limited can beat, like, the nuts... black-red control deck or whatever, is like just, oh, okay, I'll play this uninteractable creature and you'll just never be able to kill it and you'll die.
Yeah, that's fair.
So it's kind of like the same role that bombs serve in terms of like leveling the skill gap a little, where it's like, oh, well, it's my second time playing Sealed, but I have a chance at winning because I've got this like powerful card that my opponent can't interact with.
Yeah.
But that said, I really do hate cards that are just like, okay, yeah, you can't block this and you can't kill it, so...
Get wrecked.
Yeah, good luck.
Yeah, I don't know. My feelings about, like... So, my biggest gripe is, like, you gotta have tools, right? So, like, something like Carnage Tyrant is clearly so you can play, like, green decks that are mid-rangey and you don't just die to control.
Yes.
Like, you have some play. That being said, they're probably keeping in all their sweepers. So, it's like, okay, that's, like, fair enough, I think.
Yeah.
But it gets problematic sometimes where it's just, like, the creature is a bit too efficient.
Yeah.
Or, again, in, like, low-powered formats where it's just like, I'm just gonna boggle you. And it's like, great, we didn't play a game of Magic. You played a thing that's uninteractable. And that wasn't fun.
I remember losing a lot to Jade Guardian, One with the Wind in Ixalan, and that was not great.
It was the worst. It was the absolute pits.
Yeah. Especially because it wasn't like you could play that many good flyers in that format that could actually interact with it.
Yeah. I actually just want to stop this conversation now. I'm getting flashbacks of that entire time of Standard, and I hated it.
But to go along with pre-release, the release of the set on Modo happened, and the standard rotation on Modo happened.
Woo!
So, ever since Wizards started doing this, we started just getting like deck dumps, which are like a big portion of just like what people are playing to some success in week one on Modo. And so like we don't have the actual physical cards in our hands in paper yet, or at least they're not released. But we already have like effectively the first set of tournament results. I will say that the Modo results are very hard to take as like, oh, this is the week one metagame.
Yeah.
Because they're so skewed from several things.
Yeah, so, like, number one, there's, like, a bunch of people experimenting with a bunch of different stuff. And likewise, they're jamming decks together. So sometimes stuff's going to filter to the top. There's also, like, the actual data collection methods and how they publish the deck lists, if that makes sense. So Wizards doesn't publish every single deck list that goes 5-0. They select decks through, isn't it an algorithm?
So it's going to be 20 cards randomly.
Different. Yeah.
And then I think there's like 5, I forget, they made it very confusing, but it's like there's like 5 decks randomly. No, that was before. It used to be 5 decks randomly, they had to be 20 cards different. Now it's just like they'll publish every 5-0 that's 20 cards different from any other 5-0, I think.
Right.
I still don't really know exactly how it works.
Either way, the thing is, if decks are too similar, they're not going to print multiple copies of the same deck, is basically the way it works.
Yeah.
So you'll see what decks 5-0'd, but you won't know how many decks like that 5-0'd. Is
the idea is they're trying to, like, hide the metagame percentages.
Mm-hmm.
So that people don't know that, like, oh, well, there's only one, like, mono-green list in this dump, but, like, 50 people 5-0'd with it.
Yeah.
Like, they don't want you to know that. But we can still gain useful information about the sort of cards people are playing, and the sort of variety of shells those cards can show up in from this.
Mm-hmm.
And it is still useful to see what people are playing to some success early on in the format. I would also say that some people, I think, take Modo 5-0s as, like, a lot more of an indicator of power than they are. Modo 5-0s are, like, the equivalent of this deck winning an FNM.
Yeah, I'd say it's probably a bit higher than an FNM. I'd say winning, like, a PPTQ.
I think it's less than that.
Okay, that's fair.
Like, especially for, like, Modo grinders.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of, like, because you can just get a 5-0, like, with just, like, a reasonable win rate and just playing enough leagues.
Yeah.
So if people are, like, just jamming enough leagues, then they'll get a 5-0 with like, whatever deck they want, provided they have a reasonable win rate with that deck. Obviously, that's sort of indicative of a deck's power, but, like, I don't know. Modo 5-0s are, like, not the be-all, end-all.
Yes, I would agree with that.
Yeah.
It's nowhere near something like a top 8 at a GP.
Yeah.
It's nothing near, any sort of bigger results. Even like an RPTQ, I wouldn't take it with that much, credibility, as it were. That being said,
I would also say that early on results like this are also kind of skewed because everyone's playing whatever.
Yeah.
Like, there is no defined metagame, so people are just kind of trying out a lot of stuff.
And
so you'll see stuff that went 5-0 and you'll be like, oh wow, this deck's really weird. And we don't know what they beat to go 5-0.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know if they played against, like, 3 kind of nonsense things. One real deck that flooded out and another real deck that got screwed.
Yeah. Which does sometimes happen.
I'm not trying to denigrate any of these 5-0s, incidentally, or none individually.
Yes.
It's just more like when you're approaching like a Modo 5-0 thing, there's a tendency, I think, for people to go, oh, this guy went 5-0. Clearly this deck list is, like, perfect, when really it's, a lot of things contribute to doing well on Modo.
Absolutely. I think it should definitely impact your philosophy of when you are reading into results. I think a lot of kind of like low-level competitive to mid-level competitive players are really tempted when they see a deck put up a result and just be like, okay, I'll copy-paste that. Like, that did it. I think, especially early in the format, more so than other times, it's actually, like, there's quite a bit more impetus to being like, okay, this is an interesting shell.
Yeah.
How can I improve that?
There's clear power going on here. Is this the best way to use it?
Exactly. So,
yeah, what we're going to do is just jump in and, like, I think briefly go over each of the decks that's been posted. And then I've done a little bit of, like, metagame analysis of them.
Ooh, technical.
Looking at, like, some stats. So I think some of them are interesting, so I kind of want to talk about them and what they might indicate. Again, a lot of them are, like, some of them will be skewed by the way that the publishing process works, but I think it's still interesting and indicative of overall trends to some degree.
So let's start with the first deck. We have Naka_Mura, got a 5-0, running goblins.
Yeah, red-white goblins.
Big R, very small W.
Yeah.
This looks almost a copy-paste from a deck that Andrea Mengucci was actually speculating about when Legion War Boss got spoiled. And yeah, makes good use of a lot of older cards. Pretty much the only cards that are new in this are Conclave Tribunal, Response Resurgence, and the classic Legion War Boss. Other than that,
there's also Goblin Crater Maker,
which
I think is a pretty big get for the Goblin tribe in general.
Yeah, that's actually a really good shout. Yeah, the deck looks super straightforward. It looks like it can probably have some pretty aggressive starts. I'm actually not surprised that Goblin Shell 5-0'd in the first week.
Yeah, you get to play Goblin Chainwhirler, which is a really big deal. Radiant Destiny is a way of like going over the top of other people.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you get a Radiant Destiny, then you land a Siege Gun Commander. It sounds really hard to lose that game if you're both caring about the board.
Yeah. No Trash Master though.
No Trash Master. I do think that card is probably quite expensive, and if you're not getting paid on its sack ability, I'm not that excited about it personally.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
There's 2 in the sideboard.
Ooh, that's sideboard tech.
This is, I think, one of the only red decks, incidentally, that is not playing Experimental Frenzy.
Experimental Frenzy is so good though.
Yeah.
Instead, they're playing Vanquish's banner.
Yeah, I think that that's maybe something we get to in a moment with regards to Frenzy. But so the second list is Pig Norton, who went 5-0 with a green-black like mid-range list, playing like 4 Golgari Fine Broker, 3 Vraska Relic Seeker, 4 Assassin's Trophy, 3 The Eldest Reborn, 3 Find Finality.
Yeah,
it's pretty. Yeah,
I love it. This is a deck we were talking about.
Yeah, we were talking about some kind of like green-black mid-range. I've played it a little bit now. I've played against it a little bit, and I find that it like is quite efficient at going over the top of people. Find Finality is a very powerful, versatile card.
Yeah,
letting you like in control matchups just being like a divination in the late game, and in aggro matchups being like a June Blast.
Yeah, I played a bit of this deck and I was really impressed. I like it's interesting that like you get a bunch of card advantage in kind of weird ways. Obviously through recurring, but also things like Merfolk Branchwalker and Jade Light Ranger, which are 2 cards I've never been that excited about. They felt really good in this deck.
Yeah.
Because you just want to hit your land drops and just play things on curve, and then just, oh my gosh, the best feeling is Chupacabraing, trade your Chupacabra for something of theirs, play Fine Broker, get back Chupacabra.
Yeah.
It's so sick.
I do think that it's an interesting choice that this deck is playing. Like, its interaction main deck is like 4 Assassin's Trophy, 4 Ravenous Chupacabra, and then it has like stuff like the Eldritch Reborn and Vraska Relic Seeker. But that's its kind of early interaction.
Yeah.
It's that and cheap creatures. And then the rest of the early interaction you'd normally expect to see in this sort of deck, stuff like Cast Down and Deadweight, and even a single Price of Fame is in the sideboard instead.
I definitely thought and this could be somewhere where the shell could go. I expected at least 1 more removal spell. Maybe not 4 of, but a couple cast downs, a couple of something else is actually what I expected to see. Maybe they'd take one of the slots of something like Izareth the Awakener, which I'm not 100% sold on.
The card is interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it's grindy. It's on game plan, but
yeah.
I don't know how often you get to like throw down with it and actually do it. Best card in this deck, though, Dryad Greenseeker.
Yeah, that card is very good, I think.
Good old
sorts
Bob.
Of grindy. Yeah. I also think it's interesting in that it like asks you to know when to activate it.
Yeah.
Based on knowing what you need.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, next list is Jake Dershimer.
Our first Boros deck.
Yeah, there's a lot of red-white in this dump.
Yeah.
Like a lot of red-white decks.
Yeah.
This is actually not the first Boros deck, it's just the first deck that you would describe as Boros. The very first deck was playing red and white cards.
Oh, whatever. It's goblins.
This deck is red-white knights. And it's playing 3 Cavalry Drillmaster, who is a knight. I didn't know that. That's the 2/1 from M19 that pumps a creature and gives it first strike until end of turn.
We got some of the mentor creatures and the mentor payoffs from the new set. So we have 3 Boros Challengers, a Swiftblade Vindicator, 4 Tajik, the Legion's Edge, as well as Aurelia. So pretty powerful stuff there.
Yeah, I mean, so Cavalry Drillmaster does play really interestingly with the mentor creatures.
Yeah.
Because he makes them bigger so they can pump other things.
That's pretty sick.
He also plays well with History of Benalia because, I mean, he pumps your tokens.
Yeah.
And also gets pumped himself by the history.
I really, really like him with mentor creatures as well because it makes sure you can just swing with them.
Yeah.
Which sometimes you're going to run into board states where it's like a bit awkward. Like, Either you can't swing with like your Boros Challenger, or you can't swing with what's it called, the creature you want to pump, because it's just like, oh, it'll just trade in combat or whatever. I'm not going to actually get the value off my mentor. And this kind of lets you do it, but most of the time, like, you get stuff like Swiftblade Vindicator, give a double strike, vigilance, trample, +2/+0. Yeah, that's probably just good.
Yeah, I do think that Drillmaster has like an interesting amount of synergy with most of the deck. Yeah, and you're playing like 2 Ajani Adversary of Tyrants. The deck is interesting. You're playing stuff like Deafening Clarion in the sideboard and Lyra Dawnbringer. You're also playing Experimental Frenzy.
Yeah,
you can go quite
big.
Defensive and and quite like mid-rangey post board.
Yeah,
they even have 2 lands in the sideboard, 2 Memorial to Glories.
Interesting. So the next one is Luca Shock, who is playing another big R red, little W white deck. It's mostly mono red, but it has Response Resurgence in it.
Yeah, so the main deck is white exclusively for Response Resurgence, and then you have access to
Dismissive Pyromancer, which
4
is
Ixalan's Binding and 2 Deafening Clarions post-board.
Okay, yeah, so you have some sideboard cards from white, but mostly it's utilizing things like Runaway Steamkin.
This is the first list that is playing Runaway Steamkin. I think this card is, like, some people were talking about this card being good before it came out. I haven't played with it now. I think this card is just great.
It's a 2-mana 4/4.
It lets you do so many things. Being a 4/4 in the red decks is a really big deal, because it used to be that you could just deal with 4 toughness things with Challenger and Glorybringer. Now those cards are kind of a problem. I mean, this is playing stuff like Lava Coil as like a concession to that.
Yeah.
But Steamkin being able to attack through like a Thrashing Brontodon I found to be quite impactful.
Yeah, that's fair. That used to be a really big problem for the red decks, actually, is just having a reasonable on-rate creature that was a 3/4, and it's like, oh, how do I ever get through this?
Yeah. It's also playing 4 Rekindling Phoenix, which, in my experience, that card is still just great.
Yeah, this looks kind of like the evolution of almost the red-black shell. Obviously, you don't have tools like Heart of Kirin or Scrapheap Scroungers, like the recursive threats, but you get a lot of, like, it's pretty mid-rangey. Like, you have the Legion Warboss, you have the Rekindling Phoenix, your 5-drop is Siege Gang Commander, which gives you some reach. I'd say maybe, you also just have the 4 Goblin Chain Whirlers, which is still a good card.
I think another big part of this deck is it's playing 2 Experimental Frenzy in the main.
Yeah.
And this deck is just, I think, let me just quickly check my numbers, but I think, so there are 2 decks playing Experimental Frenzy in the main, and this is in this dump, and this is one of them. And I think, having played with this card a bit, I think this card's kind of insane. I think it's just, like, amazing.
Sorry, I just want to talk about this card a little bit and what it does. So, it's a 4-mana red enchantment, so 3 colorless red. You may look at the top card of your library anytime. You may play the top card of your library. You can't play cards from your hand. And then you can pay 4 mana to destroy Experimental Frenzy. So I first looked at this card and I thought it was like your kind of run-of-the-mill, like Vance's Blasting Cannons or the Outpost Siege sort of thing. Like 4-mana enchantment, draw an extra card. But you realize that once you play the card off the top of your library, you can play the next card off your library?
It's Future Sight.
Yeah, it's pretty nuts.
And the you can't play cards from your hand clause is less impactful than it reads, basically. You read it and you think, oh, well, I don't want to lock off my whole hand, but actually, like, pretty commonly, by the time you're playing this, you don't have a hand.
Or you don't have anything good in hand. It's like lands or something like that.
Importantly, I think Runaway Steamkin plays incredibly well with Experimental Frenzy, because it gives you mana to keep playing stuff off of your Frenzy, and then your Frenzy gives you cards to keep fueling up your Steamkin.
Yeah, that's really sick.
Like, the 2 cards just play really, really well together, and I am a big fan of the 2 of them together. So I've played this list as well, this red-white list, and I was a pretty big fan. It felt really good. You're a little bit more mid-rangey, as you say. You're not really playing any 1-drops, and you're playing mostly like creature fighting removal rather than like burn. But as a result, your removal gets to be a bit more efficient, and you just get to beat up, I think, on other like creature-based aggro decks.
So the next list is Gazmon 48s. This is like the mono blue Tempest Djinn deck.
Yeah, taken to sort of a reasonable finish by Ken Yukihiro in Worlds. This deck has always like shown up sometimes.
Yes.
Like, you'll occasionally see it publish a 5.0, or someone will bring it to some big event. It's never been super popular, but Tempest Djinn is clearly a powerful card.
I mean, looking at the list, did they even put any new cards in here? I don't think there's a single new card from Guilds.
There are 2 Night Veil sprites.
There we are. 2 Night Veil sprites.
And 2 Disdainful Strokes.
And I mean, Disdainful Strokes is pretty good to get for the deck.
Yeah.
Being able to deal with bigger things on the cheap lets you keep your tempo. I mean, it's very much a tempo deck. So, yeah, I mean, fair enough. I don't have much experience with the deck. But...
Yeah, me neither. I don't think many people do. The people who do have played it a lot, and the people who don't have never picked it up. It's always looked very strange to me. But, I mean, I guess a slightly new addition is the pickup of, like, a wizard package to support Wizard's Retort as, like, a good tempo counterspell.
Yeah.
They're playing 2 Exclusion Mage, 4 Merfolk Trickster, and 4 Siren Stormtamer for a total of 10 wizards.
Maybe that's enough.
I mean, it depends how bad casting Wizard's Retort as cancel is. Basically.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, this deck's interesting, but I don't know much more to say about it. I don't really have enough experience with this to be like, oh, they should be playing this sort of stuff. But the next one on the list is Chiron the Mage, who 5-0'd with blue-white control. Which...
Yay! I love this deck, sort of.
I still am very skeptical of how good the mana is for this.
I agree.
I've been talked around to the concept that, like, okay, so someone else made a good argument that I saw recently about Carson's numbers article and how it's not... So he's right on the numbers, but you need to be mindful of some things about it. For example, okay, let's say that it's turn 3, and you have Sinister Sabotage in your hand, which is double blue.
Mm-hmm.
What circumstances do you not have double blue? The circumstances where you haven't drawn that many lands, right?
Sure.
If you've drawn like 5 lands by turn 3, it's very unlikely that you don't have some combination that makes double blue.
Okay.
If you've only drawn like 3 lands by turn 3, it's possible you don't have double blue. But what that means is you probably have a lot of other spells to be casting. Mm-hmm. So you probably have stuff like Essence Scatter.
Sure.
In your hand.
You probably have single blue.
Yeah, or Syncopate. That kind of stuff.
Okay.
So basically they were making the argument that you don't actually need to consistently hit double blue on 3 for Sinister Sabotage if you're playing like a good number of other single blue interaction spells.
It's true, and there's also a level where like Sinister Sabotage is a spell that you might want to save for later a lot of times on turn 3 because you have catch-up mechanisms for the early plays.
So I've kind of been talked into the idea that you don't need your mana to be that good in blue-white, and that you can kind of get away with cheating a little bit on a lot of stuff. That said, this guy is playing 4 Field of Ruin, which might be necessary, but feels like...
a lot.
Yeah. Feels like a lot of colorless lands in my 2-color deck that doesn't really get to play that many good duels.
We're also playing 4 Meandering Rivers, which is like, eh. And then we have 2 Memorial to Geniuses, which that card has played well for me in this show.
Yeah,
but
I think Memorial Genius is just good.
It's 6 tap lands and 4 colorless lands.
Yeah.
I don't know.
The big weird thing to me is he's playing 2 Devious Cover-Up in his main deck.
What does that card do?
It is a 4-mana cancel that shuffles up to 4 target cards from your graveyard into your library.
I mean, it wins the mirror, right?
I mean, I guess. I guess it's good if you've run out of Teferis.
Oh, that's a fair point. But I'm not sold on that. It's a pretty expensive counterspell. Yeah, I'd almost rather run Bone to Ash.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure. I mean, Bone to Ash only count as creature spells.
That's true. It's a very big Essence Scatter, but it draws a card at least.
That's true. It is dismissed sometimes. Yeah, I'm not sure about Devious Cover-Up. It's a very strange thing. I guess 4-mana spells are good to disguise Settle.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, but I feel like Chemist's Insight, which is already a 4 of, is probably better at disguising Settle than Devious Cover-Up is. And also just letting you like make use of your mana if they don't give you an opportunity to settle.
Yeah, I don't know about it.
It is playing 2 Mission Briefing as well, which is interesting.
Right, this is the weird Snapcaster spell, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe there's some power there. I'm skeptical, but... I mean, it's kind of a weird torrential Gearhulk, but without the body, which makes it a lot worse.
I mean, It also makes you pay the cost, so it's an instant speed flood of recollection.
Yeah, but I guess what I'm saying is like quite often you're paying 6 for the Gearhulk to snap back something like Settle the Wreckage, right?
Sure, but I mean in this case, Snapcaster Mage is still a better illustrative example there because it's 2 mana, pay the additional cost of the spell. My thing would be that like it is an instant speed flood of recollection with some upsides and some downsides.
Yeah. I guess that's fair. I mean, maybe it's worth testing. I kind of discarded it a little bit. I haven't been looking that much at blue-white because, again, I was sort of skeptical of the mana. But maybe this means we should give it another shot. I don't know. The strategy is strong.
Being able to flashback a Settle the Wreckage is a really big deal.
Yeah, for sure.
And the mana for that is kind of hard, but I think you can reasonably have double blue, double white on turn 5 or turn 6 even, which is when you would be doing it.
So the next list, however,
is
the best list.
This is
Bertram,
kind of nonsense.
The best 5-0. Whoever you are, Bertram, I love you. Because you have, unbeknownst to you, most likely, made a Holt range deck.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. So we have this big Boros Angels deck.
Yeah, to be clear to anyone listening, Holt range refers to any nonsense pile of red and white cards that make a mid-range deck, which Holt will invariably, at some point during a standard rotation, come to us and go, guys, I think this is really well positioned. And then we'll say, Holt, how do you ever beat a control deck? And he'll say,
Yeah, that's fair. That is too right.
But yeah, like red-white mid-range is not a terrible archetype, but it is one I like to make fun of Holt for. But yeah, this is very definitely red-white mid-range. We are playing some aggressive cards like Adante Vanguard and Knight of Grace, but we're also playing 4 Lyra Dawnbringer. 3 Aurelias, 3 Shalais, 4 Resplendent Angels, 3 Deafening Clarions.
The Clarions! Oh my gosh, you can give your creatures lifelink?
Yeah.
And then you trigger your Resplendent Angel.
Clarion does become a lot better when you have creatures like Aurelia and Shalai. I'm not excited about triggering my Resplendent Angel with Deafening
You can play it post Deafening Clarion.
That sounds like
it's a 6 mana combo.
Yeah,
2-card combo. Oh my gosh, it's so easy.
You just have to have other things in play.
Yeah,
it is okay with Adante Vanguard, to be fair.
Smart.
It makes Adante Vanguard only cost you 1 life to keep around through Deafening Clarion.
Oh, Plague Wind.
That's not bad. I'm pretty into that, actually.
Yeah. So it's playing this big Angels package, 3 Deafening Clarions, main deck, some spot removal and Lightning Strike and Conclave Tribunal. I think those Lightning Strikes should probably be something else. Like, I don't feel like you're winning through burn, but I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. And then 4 History of Benalio. It's a good card. Spoilers, still.
We'll talk about History of Benalio more a bit later, I think, because there is more to say. They have a very, defensive, removal-based sideboard. They have 4 Sealaways, 3 Settle the Wreckage, an Ixalan's Binding, and another Deafening Clarion. So they can go up to, 7 sweepers post-board.
I like it. I kind of... The only thing that I feel like maybe should be included in the sideboard is someone to get some card advantage, but...
I mean... Do you have any off the top of your head in red and white?
Vance's Blasting Cannons.
I mean, that's a possibility. It's certainly better, I think, for this deck than Experimental Frenzy, because a lot of your cards are so expensive, so it's quite hard to chain stuff through Frenzy.
The thing is, if you're going to go slow, the biggest problem Boros... I have a lot of experience trying to make Boros control decks. The biggest problem is you got to be able to draw cards somehow. Otherwise,
what do you think about Dawn of Hope?
Dawn of Hope.
2 mana enchantment, 1 and a white. Whenever you gain life, you may pay 2 if you do draw a card. Pay 4 mana, make a 1/1 lifelink.
That's kind of interesting. You might be able to combine it, maybe the Lightning Strikes. I don't know if this is right. It's probably the wrong deck for it, actually, but you could run something like the new Lightning Helix, the 4 mana one.
Integrity Intervention?
Yeah, exactly. The main deck is pretty greedy as far as costs go, but, if that's the way you're going, you could use that as a way of getting some card advantage.
I mean, I was thinking of that as a sideboard option.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, I mean, you can play, 2 in the sideboard, and then it kind of wins the mirror, or the mid-range mirror to some extent, and it also, gives you quite a powerful tool against control, I think. If you slam that on turn 2 against control, and you just keep playing your game, and they're forced to answer all your stuff, and then when they run out of resources, you're just okay, cool. In your end step, make 2 1/1s. Attack, draw 2 cards.
Yeah, it's pretty sick.
I've been impressed by it against me so far, playing a control deck. So
okay.
I think the card is, actual legs, and potentially is interesting. If you're looking for, a way of gaining card advantage and, grinding out the late game, I think that Dawn of Hope might be an option.
All right, I'll look into it, and okay. I think actually this is the next deck I'm going to proxy.
Fair, that does not surprise me. After that, we have Moose Droppings, who 5-0'd with a Stitcher's Supplier like green-black creature deck. It's playing 29 creatures, 2 Azoni Thousand Eyes as like the star players there alongside the Stitches players, 4 Doom Whisperers as just like a 5-mana 6/6 flying trample that can mill them. I guess Surveiller's like good. The card's just good. But,
yeah, it is.
They're playing it.
It's an undercosted evasive threat.
Yeah, but they're playing it like alongside a lot of mill payoffs and mill cards.
And then some Vraskas.
Yeah, 2 Vraska Golgari Queens, which is interesting if I'm playing a Citrus player deck, I think.
Yeah, I think so. You get to trade off your kind of dorky dudes and then turn them into Zoni value. I'm into it.
Yeah. It's playing 3 Assassin's Trophy, 1 the Eldest Reborn, and 2 Find Finality in the main deck.
Sure.
Its sideboard's standouts are like 4 Midnight Reapers.
Yeah.
Which,
that makes sense. Like if you're trading a bunch
me.
of creatures.
Yeah.
Or sacking a bunch of creatures. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. This is like... It doesn't feel like a hugely refined archetype to me right now, but I do think there's something here to this like green-black creatures Izoni deck.
Yeah, I definitely think there is. I think there's this kind of rock deck, and then there's this graveyard deck. And we were playing the graveyard deck a bit last night. Alex was testing it.
Yeah.
And he... Mixed results.
Yeah, definitely mixed results there. I don't think it's necessarily was his list, or like the list he was playing will be the one that is great, but I think there will be a list that plays Izoni that is quite scary for some decks.
Yeah, I was about to say, I think this is the type of deck that you can tweak it a lot. There's a lot of spaces that you can move up and down on, or add different utility creatures, and you can go more in on the sax synergies, or you can go more in for other synergies, like the... What is it, where you bring a 1, 2, and 3 drop from your graveyard and reanimate?
Gruesome Menagerie.
Yeah, that's the build that Alex was playing last night. You know, you can play some of that card. So there's a lot of knobs on it, and I think that as the format goes on, it will become more refined.
Yeah. After that, we have a Grixis mid-range list, which is kind of close to a control list. It is playing 2 Sweepers in it and 4 Eldest Reborn, but I think it's mid-range because it's playing 4 Nicol Bolas the Ravager.
Yeah, Nicol Bolas is pretty mid-rangey, and this is the first Nicol Bolas we've seen so far.
Yeah, it is the only Nicol Bolas we will see.
Ooh, the only one.
This is the only
he's
deck
in
playing
this
Nicol
crazy
Bolas.
shell with Bone Dragon.
Just one Bone Dragon, to be fair.
Bone Dragon?
Like, I can see a single Bone Dragon where it's just like, okay, cool, this is one of my grind tools against control decks.
I can't believe he's playing Hearthstone cards in Magic. No, so Bone Dragon, Dream Eater.
Yeah, 3 Dream Eaters, which is a lot of Dream Eaters, but that card is pretty cool if you're able to, like, land it. Like, if you have a Nicol Bolas on the board, and then, like, you just kept them a little bit off balance, then you land a Dream Eater and bounce their like biggest threat, and suddenly you just have a way better board than they do.
It's just
you're going into your Nicol Bolas flip turn.
Yeah, that's pretty nonsense. Like the strongest Angler Drake.
Yeah. Very definitely.
And then you have some like pretty reasonable interaction, some cast downs,
it's playing 4 Notion Rain.
I'm also interested that it's also playing 3 Moment of Craving as well. Like,
yeah, I think that's a concession to the expectation of a lot of Boros.
Yeah.
Like Cast Down isn't a particularly exciting card against Adanta Vanguard or Tajik.
The Jiki.
So, like, you kind of want to be playing Moment of Craving to deal with that.
The sideboard also seems to reflect that. It's a lot of aggro hate cards, some duresses and negates.
2 Unmoored Ego, which I guess sounds sick against the blue-white decks that like their only win con is Teferi.
Yeah, take Teferi.
Yeah, or if you just like go into post board, you take the Teferi, and then you just have like 4 the Eldest Reborn. You just keep in like your 4 Vraska's Contempts, and then how do they really like win?
You can always just also use it when you play against Tron.
That's true.
Take a Tron land?
Assuming that Tron ever is reprinted in the standard, which seems unlikely.
I hope not. I hope that
you kind of force them into like, I guess this list has stuff like the blue white list that got posted has stuff like History Benalia in the sideboard,
and
like a Nezahal. But I can definitely see worlds where you just crush them, where you Unmoored Ego, take their Teferi, and then you just don't have to play scared of them at any point during the game later.
Lagzilla, the next one, also posted a Dream Eater Doom Whisperer deck. I mean, I guess the last one didn't have Doom Whisperer, but
no, his deck is also Dream Eater. But the headliner of this one is very definitely Disinformation Campaign.
A freaking deck that has 4 Disinformation Campaign. How does Control ever beat this?
I don't know.
I mean, you just like slam this and you just slowly eke out the advantage.
Yeah, like this card is like the absolute king of incremental advantage. And makes stuff like Settler Wreckage really hard to keep in your hand.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, especially Settler Wreckage and Seal Away, this really abuses a lot of Blue-White's best tools being conditional.
Mm-hmm.
Because they just don't give you the conditions to cast it until they've taken every card in your hand.
That is pretty sick. I like it. I
think it's interesting. I do think that Disinformation Campaign sounds incredibly bad against Runaway Steamkin.
Yeah, that is
or History
true.
of Analia. Like, if my opponent plays History of Analia and my response is to Disinformation Campaign them, I feel like I'm probably not going to win that game.
I mean, they've got some concessions, though. They have 2 main deck Ritual of Soots. They also have 2 Deadweights main deck, as well as Moment of Craving. So there's a lot of concession to smaller creatures.
That's definitely true. I'm still kind of wary of playing for Disinformation Campaign's main deck in my blue-black mid-range lists, but I'm not opposed to it being a potential way forward, depending on how the metagame shapes up and who you're taking aim at.
But in the sideboard, Thief of Sanity.
Yeah, I mean, I think that card is also just sick if you're in a matchup where it's going to live. I'm really into it.
You may as well just have it live the dream. All right, the next
one is the weirdest list
by Random Drooler.
It feels the least polished to me of the ones I've looked at, but I that's not really meant as a
slight.
It's just like it's a lot of 4-ofs, which tends to mean like this is my first draft. I don't really know what numbers I need. I'm just going to play 4 of the cards I think fit best, and then we'll see how it plays out. And clearly it worked out well for him to some extent.
It worked out well for them. Yeah. So it's 2... we start the list with 2 Burglar Rats.
4 District Guide, 4 Dusk Legion Zealot, 4 Izoni Thousand Eyed, 4 Jade Light Ranger, 4 Kitesail Freebooter, 4 Ravenous Chupacabra.
Some fine finalities.
4 fine finalities, 4 Ritual of Soot, 4 Cast Down.
Yeah, so either this list is extremely tuned or it's not.
Yeah.
Looking at it, it's like, okay, the game plan here is just to trade off my dinky value creatures.
Just play dorky creatures that all do something when they ETB.
And just cast a million...
just cast a Zoni and then get a Zoni back, and cast a Zoni and get a Zoni back and cast a Zoni.
Yeah,
You're playing 4 Ritual of Soot in your deck that plays 4 creatures that don't die to it.
Yeah,
which I understand, that's kind of the point. You want your creatures in the graveyard. It's just a very funny image.
It's a weird interaction. In the sideboard, they have some graveyard hate with Death's Guard Scavenger, Duresses, Fungal Infections, Rex Sage, 2 Vasquez Contempt. I don't know about this.
I have no idea how to take this.
I think the other Izoni deck looks a lot stronger, but I don't know, maybe...
This not playing Stitcher Supplier is very strange to me.
Yeah, that's true as well. It's your game plan already. Why wouldn't you play Stitcher
Supplier? It's possible
Supplier?
they feel like the mana can't support it, but they don't have any green 1-drops, so I don't see why they couldn't adjust their mana base to be... to be able to support a 1-mana black spell.
Maybe they just think the utility isn't good enough. All these other cards they're playing either cost the opponent a card or draw them a card.
That's true.
So maybe they think just the value's not there. Milling isn't enough.
I also think that the cast downs could probably be Assassin's Trophies.
Yeah, I could dig that.
But I don't know. Assassin's Trophy isn't a very good removal spell on turn 2 most of the time.
And
this deck does seem really soft to Steel Leaf Champion.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really see... I guess you have Find Finality, but yeah. A turn 2 Steel Leaf Champion is a really big deal for you. Because you're just never blocking it.
I actually think this deck has, I can't imagine it beating, Control either. I feel like the clock is so anemic until you Izoni.
Well, I guess the idea is that, you force them to Wrath your board. Because you just play, a bunch of nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
And you make them Wrath you, and then you play the Izoni.
They've settled already.
That's true.
Exile all your dudes, whatever.
Having Settle Wreckage... Yeah, I guess if it depends if you're taking aim at the Deafening Clarion decks.
Yeah, that's for sure. So our next 5-0 is Joe Andrade. And they seem to be playing a green-white... Yeah,
this is green-white Steel Leaf.
Yeah, Steel Leaf Champion. Yeah, sorry. I was just reading through some of the stuff. Some of the new cards, obviously.
Yeah. So they have 4 Amara Soul the Accord, 4 Pelt Collector. These are all just new cards. Yep. 4 Venerated Loxodon, and the thing that's allowing them to play white 2-drops is that they're playing 4 Flower Flourish, which basically can be an Evolving Wilds in these green-white decks.
Mm-hmm.
But also, if you flood out, lets you like do something with your Llanowar elves that are sticking around.
Yeah, it's fair. They also have some copies of Conclave Tribunal for some unconditional removal. Yeah, looks pretty solid.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't really know what else to add to it. I feel like this is the kind of thing we were talking about before the set. Like, we thought this was going to be good.
I mean, so they're not playing Assure Assemble, and they're not playing any of the big hexproof creatures main deck.
That's true. They aren't playing either Vinemare or the Nullhide Ferox.
Yeah, they're playing Venerated Loxodon instead. The idea, I think, is like they're not taking aim at the control decks right now. They're taking aim at the other creature decks.
Yeah,
and it's much more impactful to be like, tap my guys, make them all bigger than your guys.
Oh god!
And like make a 4/4.
So I was playing a Boros tokens deck against one of the green-white tokens list we'll talk about a little bit later, and the Venerated Loxodon can just be such a beating where it's just like, oh my gosh, how do I keep up with this thing?
Yeah, so I can definitely see like they're not worried about their opponent removing their creatures right now. They're worried about their creatures being bigger than their opponents.
So, sideboard, they have a couple Donna Hopes, like you were talking about.
Yeah.
Lyra, Shalai, Vine Mares, so they're in the sideboard. Vivian Reed, yeah, seems pretty standard, and a couple Sealways.
Yep. Yeah, it's like what I would mostly expect from like a green-white sideboard. Then we have... This deck's sick. I'm a big fan of this deck. I have no idea if it's good, but I'm a big fan of it. This is like... Sarkhan midrange, like mono red Sarkhan. I guess it's not mono red. It's playing one planes and then the red white jewels.
I think you're forgetting the other namesake planeswalker in this deck.
Oh, the one Jaya Ballard.
I mean, there's one in the sideboard.
That's true. Okay, so I mean,
Jaya Ballard.
Jaya is clearly less good in this deck than Sarkhan is.
I mean, it's hard for Jaya to ever be as good as Sarkhan.
I mean, that's not totally true. Like. There are definitely decks where Sarkhan is bad because you don't have any dragons to make the mana for, so he's just like a rummaging engine.
Yeah,
which
but
like is okay.
He's an ultimate that wins the game as well.
That's true. I mean, Jaya has an ultimate that wins the game, right? As long as you do something with it.
Yeah.
Her ultimate is Past in Flames forever.
Yeah.
But
which
like
is decent.
Yeah, but like so yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, she has an ultimate thing with the game. So this is like...
So her ultimate in this deck is cast all your Lava Coils, Justice Strikes, Lightning Strikes, Shivan Fires, and Spit Flames again.
Yeah, pretty much.
I'm not sure that's won the game,
no,
but it's pretty good.
There's a reason... I don't know why we're talking about Jaya with this deck so much. The clear thing to talk about is Sarkhan. There are like 6 dragons that Sarkhan can cast, 4 Demanding Dragons, 2 Verix Blade Wings, and as a kind of secondary backup Sarkhan, you have 4 Runaway Steamkins, this is another deck that can kind of abuse the fact that it can be a cheap 4/4, because you can keep killing your opponent's stuff and growing it with your removal spells, and also then you can take the counters off to like cast a Demanding Dragon early, or without having to have drawn as many lands as you normally would need to, or to like double Chain Whirler in a turn when your opponent wouldn't normally expect you to be able to, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I'm kind of... Okay, a lot of people talked about Demanding Dragon after Glorybringer was going, and I was pretty skeptical, and I'm seeing it here, and I'm like, okay, but there's just so many tokens around. Like, I guess 5/5 in the air is just big.
Yeah, so I will say that, like, against a lot of the decks where them sacking a creature is very minor, playing a 5/5 flyer is quite impactful. Because a lot of those decks are very bad at blocking flyers.
I mean, the biggest thing is like, yeah, I'm up for it if we're doing it on turn 4.
Yeah.
Like, whatever, let's go. Verix Bladewing as well, pretty...
Yeah, like both of those cards and the Rekindling Phoenix I've found to be like very good against the like March to the Multitudes or like Stitcher Supplier. Like, the decks where them sacking a creature is kind of trivial. I found like, oh, well... Okay, but now I have a huge dragon, so
yeah,
can you beat that?
Sideboard-wise, they have another Dryad, some more removal. They got Banefire, I'm sure, for the control matchups. You also have Fiery Cannonade, which is a cool kind of instant speed alternative to, like, Deafening Clarion.
Yeah, it being instant speed has been relevant in my experience.
And then there's 3 Lightning Mares to get a little bit more aggressive, and 2 Sorceress Spyglasses, as well as some Fight with Fires, which I assume are for your Lyra Dawnbringer.
Well, I think the Fight with Fire is for Lyra Dawnbringer, but it's also, like, it's important to recognize that this is the card that Jaya is really good with, for example.
Yeah, that's pretty sick.
Because, like, this deck can realistically kick Fight with Fire without your opponent casting a Settle. with access, if you have like 2 Gyres in your deck and the 4 Steamkins, I think you're in a reasonable place to be able to actually kick Fight with Fire.
Oh yeah, that's a fair point. I forgot Runaway Steamkin synergizes so well with that as well.
Yeah. Dude, Steamkin's just great. It's just a great card. Next is Salmonator 777, who went 5-0 with a Boros deck.
Just pretty mid-rangey.
Yeah, it's another kind of mid-rangey, semi-angelsy list. You're playing a few less angels than the other one was.
You still playing... got Resplendent Angel, Lyra,
and Aurelia.
Yeah, and Aurelia, but you have Rekindling Phoenix, Swiftblade Vindicators, Tajik, Knight of Grace, and then you have some Integrity Intervention, which is the Combat Trick, and Lightning Helix, Justice Strike, Shock, History of Benalia. Pretty straightforward, I think. The sideboard as well has some of the same tools we've seen before. Notably, also, so it's got Deafening Clarions, Experimental Frenzy, Banefire, and Settle the Wreckages, but it also has 4 Remorseful Cleric.
Yeah, and 3 Karn, Scion of Urza.
Yeah.
Which is very much like... I'm still not sure how I feel about Karn in this deck. There are no other artifacts, so he is just like a sideboarded Coercive Portal.
Yeah.
But maybe that's good.
Yeah, I mean
that's definitely an option, another option for card advantage in your red-white deck.
Yeah, exactly. And I guess the thing is, like, it gives you more selection, but it's easier to interact with than some of the enchantments you could use if you want to use that option.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't necessarily give you more selection.
I mean, yeah, that's true. You're seeing more cards, but it might just die.
Well, sure, but so it's plus technically sees you more cards than like Advanced Blasting Cannons does, but you don't get to choose which of those cards you see because your opponent gives it to you.
Yeah, I guess.
So like, and if you minus, you've seen the same number of cards as Advanced Blasting Cannons.
Yeah, that's true. I guess I was more thinking like you actually get the card so you can hold on to it for longer.
Sure, like that's the major upsides of Karn are that like you get to keep hold of the cards, and also that he can, if you tick him up to 8 or whatever, which I've done in like games where you're both just sitting there staring at each other, and you tick him up to 8, you can just like minus him 3 times and make an army of 3/3s.
Yeah,
like that's the upside of Karn, is that unlike Advanced Blasting Cannons, he's just a bit more versatile.
Yep. So the next list, Maze and Brew 47, is just Steel Leaf Stompy.
Yeah, it's green-black Steel Leaf. There are 2 Steel Leaf champion decks, I believe. Let me just quickly check my data, but I believe that's true. Yeah, there are 2 Steel Leaf champion decks in this dump. And this is where I kind of want to talk about... because this deck is, I think, pretty straightforward, pretty good. It's what we were talking about as being like one of the better things in week 1.
And nearly ports over from what it was last season.
Yeah, they've added Nullhide Feroxes and Pelt Collectors.
And 3 Assassin's Trophies.
Yeah, and 3 Assassin's Trophies in the main deck, and pretty much everything else is what you would expect to have seen. The main thing here to me is that we see a bunch of red and white aggro decks, and we see 2 green Steel Leaf decks in this dump.
Mm-hmm.
What this tells me isn't that necessarily the Steel Leaf decks are worse than the red-white aggro decks. It's that the Steel Leaf decks are a lot more homogenous immediately.
Yeah, exactly, because the archetype has been sort of formed before. We have a shell already that's pre-established, so they're not going to be that different.
Whereas, like, the red decks are all playing different 2-drops, or how many 1-drops do I play? Do I play any 1-drops? What kind of removal spells do I play? How white am I?
Mm-hmm.
And the white decks are a bit different. Everyone's kind of establishing themselves, and a lot of these other aggressive decks there's a lot of variance across the different builds. Whereas I feel like there will be a lot of green, like mono green Stompy 5-0s that we haven't seen that will play like very similar numbers of all these cards.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, this is like just looks good. Just looks like a good basis for green-black Stompy moving forward. I think Assassin's Trophy is a really good get for that archetype because it gives you like main deck or main deckable cards that can kill stuff like Lyra.
Yeah.
And other like problematic cards that previously you would like struggle to get rid of. And it also gives you like a bit of an edge in the mirror.
Yeah, I mean the sideboard options as well are pretty straightforward too. Assassin's Trophy I think definitely is like the biggest win for this deck. You know what I mean? Out of all the stuff that is in it. Everything else is pretty much the same stuff it was from last season. And that's fine. If it's not broke, don't fix it too much until you need to, what needs to change as well.
I mean, this is the sort of deck I would expect to see a lot of in queues, for example, because it's fairly straightforward. People will have a lot of the cards already.
Yep.
And it's like pretty already well refined. So you're beating up a lot of people who are playing relatively unrefined decks.
The next deck is Ex Josho's.
Yeah, it is. I have classified it as like Abzan mid-range.
It's a little bit wonky. It's kind of green-black, but it's just splashing white for Knight of Grace, Knight of Autumn, and Shalai. I think that's it.
Yeah, those are the white cards in the main deck. I am not sure if the mana supports Llanowar Elves and Vraska's Contempt. In the same deck, especially if you're playing white as well. Mm-hmm. But I could be wrong on that.
You also get your Cleansing Nova and Lyra Dawnbringer sideboard.
Yeah,
this feels quite.
Yeah, this feels quite ambitious to me.
We also have 2 Field of Runes.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. I don't know. I haven't done the maths on it either. I'm looking at this and I am a little bit like, why aren't we just playing the big green-black deck and saying let's have more consistent mana? Like, I don't think we gain that much from the white cards, realistically.
I mean, I guess you can be a bit more aggressive with some of the white cards. And Knight of Autumn is quite a nice card to have access to, giving you like quite strong like disenchants against the control decks are quite good. Mm-hmm. Also in the mirror, if I can see the mirror coming down to like Eldest Reborn a lot, and having a Knight of Autumn to be able to be like, nope, blow up your Eldest Reborn is quite a big deal.
Yeah, that's fair. You already have Assassin's Trophy for that, though.
That's true, but Knight of Autumn, but the whole matchup will be about like grinding, right?
Yeah, I guess it's 2-4. But yeah, you don't even get to play Finebroker in this deck. Like, if I want to grind, I want to play Finebroker.
I mean, that's fair. I do think that Knight of Autumn is singularly good against History of Benalia in a way that a lot of other 3-drops aren't.
That's a fair point. History of Benalia is around. We've seen it in a lot of these lists. So.
Yeah, we'll get to exactly how much History of Benalia is around in a moment, but Knight of Autumn killing if they play History and then you go Knight of Autumn, you've effectively just traded cleanly with their History. Because you've got a 2/1 that can trade with their 2/2, and you've killed their enchantment, so it's not going to make any more 2/2s. Which I think is a pretty nice thing to be able to do. Plus, like, if you need it to be just a 3-mana 4/3, which is not an exciting stat line, but it's fine. And I honestly think, here's the hot take. I think if you're going to play Knight of Autumn primarily for its gain 4 life mode, you should play the 3-mana 3/3 Centaur instead.
What's the 3-mana 3/3 Centaur do?
Gains each player 4 life.
Okay, interesting.
I honestly believe that Knight of Autumn's gain life mode is not worth the card it's printed on in red matchups.
Because the 2/1 isn't body.
I think a 2/1 body is just too bad.
Yeah, I mean it dies to Chainwhirler.
Well, that's kind of my point.
Yeah,
is that I think at that point, like, why are you playing an X1
when you could play an X3?
Do you want to be good against red? Yeah. I think if you're playing Knight of Autumn, you really need to want the disenchant.
Yeah, okay, that's fair. I can dig that. So the next deck, I love it how many different decks are around.
Early on, you'll see a ton.
Yeah, it's the Wild West right now, but it's still fun. Yeah. And I'm enjoying it.
Definitely the case.
Hades Blade has put out a Jeskai control deck. I'm a big fan of this deck.
Yeah, this deck is pretty good to me. I actually kind of want more sweepers, but I guess we have the 3 Settler Wreckage that I wasn't really thinking about.
We also have Cleansing Nova and 2 Deafening Clarions.
Yeah, I mean, I was looking at them originally. Right. So most of this is kind of what you'd expect. It's committing to being Jeskai in the mana rather than being base in any of the 2 colours and splashing.
So you have Ionize.
Yes, you have Ionize instead of Sinister Sabotage as a concession to the fact that double blue isn't something you're going to be doing early.
Justice Strike's a real removal spell.
So this is like you get to play like the good cheap red removal and sweepers, which is a really big get. And Teferi.
It is worthwhile to note there isn't anything like none of the enchantment removal, so there's no sealways. I assume that's synergized better with Ral.
Yeah, I think it's partly for that. It might be that they don't feel that they can produce white on turn 2 consistently enough. Like, they have the Justice Strikes, but those are unlikely to be cast on turn 2, right?
Yeah, you can cast them later. You want to cast that on Lyra. And you want to lightning strike the small creatures or ship and fire them.
Exactly. So it's possible that that's the thought process behind that one.
Gosh.
So here's my thing. I think that Ral might just it might just be that should be another Teferi.
Yeah, I think so too. I was looking at that as well. I think Rel is a little bit of a worse Teferi. I guess it's a little bit different. It dodges some things that might like care about stripping all the Teferis out of your deck, but still, I think Rel's just better. Teferi is just better.
I think that Teferi probably does a better job in this specific deck.
So out of the sideboard.
Oh, so no, we haven't even gotten to, like, the biggest bit of the main deck is that this deck is playing 4 expansion explosions.
Oh yeah, I forgot
which is
about
the split card, the split Izzet card, which is like, either it copies an instant or sorcery spell of CMC 4 or less, or it deals X damage and draws X cards, and then it's X blue, blue, red, red. So it's kind of like a Sphinx's Rev that can be, like, another counter spell in a counter war.
Yeah.
Or another removal spell early.
Yeah, and obviously instead of giving you life, you get a 2-for-1.
Yeah. Also,
you get to kill a
and
creature,
this is shockingly relevant, I think. It is not Sphinx's Rev. Because it does not say draw X cards, it says target player draws X cards.
Oh, so you can mill an opponent.
I mean, I think in control mirrors that is like a seriously real thing.
Yeah, for sure.
Because a lot of control mirrors will come down to like, especially because this actually allows you to beat like Teferi decks.
Yeah,
I've played a lot of, I've seen a lot of Teferi control mirrors where like nobody actually gets to emblem their Teferi because they both have too few cards in their library anymore, but they just end up tucking the Teferi so they can't deck, and this lets you be like, okay, cool. Yeah, draw 3 cards. You have you have a 1-card library.
Gotcha, bro.
Yeah. I think the expansion explosions are a really interesting get for this archetype, and I think people have been slightly underrating the expansion side of things. The more I think about it, the more I'm like, actually that's really like interesting and versatile, and the ability for it to be like, oh, another counter spell if I need it to be in the middle of a counter war, especially because you can use it to counter your opponent's counter spell. Like, let's say you try and land a Teferi, and they try and counter it, and you're like, okay, cool, expansion it.
Yeah.
Like, copy your counterspell, countering your original counterspell.
Yeah, it's pretty sick. I'm into 2-mana counterspells.
Yeah. Obviously, it's only a counterspell in that specific scenario, but it's like that's not an unreasonably uncommon scenario in my experience.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And the fact that it can be another Chemist's Insight. If your opponent Chemist's Insights, you can copy that.
It can also be really weird, like Deafening Clarion. Like, say you don't draw your what's it called, your Cleansing Nova, and they have some big stuff. Sometimes you can just Deafening Clarion and copy it.
Yeah,
and be like, well, it's a 5-mana Wrath.
Yeah,
it costs me 2 cards, but I'll deal 6 to everything.
Yeah, I think that
usually kills everything.
I think that the versatility of expansion is actually something people haven't really been talking about that much, and I think the card might actually just be great. But 4 is a lot.
Yeah, 4 is a lot. I'm interested in that number. He's the author of this deck also has some a sideboard slot. So some of the stuff we've seen before. There's some draw spells. Oh, 2 Chemist's Insight in the sideboard. That's interesting. Deafening Clarion, Disdainful Stroke, Search for Azcanta Shivering Fire, Invoke the Divine. That might be there for like the mirror. Catch your Search for Azcantas and stuff. Yeah,
I mean, there's just enough like weird enchantments, especially from the flip cycle from Ixalan and Rivals, that like you kind of want to blow up. Also stuff like the Eldest Reborn.
So it's the last 2 cards. There's a couple negates, 3 Lyras, and then the last 2 cards are Nezahal and Siege Gang Commander.
So Nezahal was in the sideboard of the blue-white deck. I think that's just like people are playing that as their like blue control mirror breaking creature. I think he got a lot better when Disallow rotated out.
That's true, but I don't like... I don't know. I feel like there's better ways to do it. There must be better ways to do it.
I do think people default very quickly, and probably too much, to the, oh, well, I want to win the mirror. I'll play a big nonsense creature. Whereas actually in the past, we've seen like the best way of doing it was like Walking Ballista and Baral. And that those, like, giving you access to cheap options you can play early. So there's a list maybe we'll talk about... we can talk about it now, actually. There's a list that Brian Gottlieb of the Game Podcast has been playing around with that plays 3 Sarkhans in his main deck. Which like goes with the Niv Mizzet. He's playing 2 Niv Mizzets in his main deck as well. But also it's just like a very strong thing to do proactively in the control mirror.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where you're just like, okay, land this, start discarding my removal spells.
Yeah, do you have enough lightning strikes or whatever you need to kill Sarkhan?
Yeah, and like his win condition does get wrathed, so if you ultimate him, your opponent can just wrath you. But also like that kind of makes them hold wraths in their hand in the control mirror.
Yeah.
And also, like, you can counter that Wrath if you're a control deck.
Yeah, absolutely. You can fight the counter war with you having 4 5/5s.
Yeah. I'm not sure they help with the counter war that much, but
they're free.
Yeah, but no, I think this deck is interesting, and I think Jeskai Control is an interesting direction to go in that I want to try.
Definitely interested in it.
There is a green-white Benelish Marshall deck, which I'm really not a fan of the mana. It's playing 4 Selesnya Guildgates.
Not really what you want to be doing in an aggro deck, but it's got some Skyarch aspirants. There's some of the other classic green-white stuff. Shalai, a couple, some Shannas for Go Wide. There's also Tendershoot Dryad.
There's one Tendershoot Dryad, which does sound like it crushes any kind of like creature mirror.
Yeah, and then of course there's the normal March of the Multitudes, Nonsense, Conclave Tribunal, History of Benelia.
I will say that it might be a very small thing, but I'm not sure that the upside of the Yavimaya Sap Herd's interaction with Tendershoot Dryad, because it's playing 4 Yavimaya Sap Herd, and I'm not sure that upside is high enough compared to being able to play the Jungleborn Pioneer from Ixalan.
Yeah, where you get
a hexproof 1/1.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I think the hexproof might be better than the off chance that it interacts well with your Tendershoot Dryad, but I could be wrong. It's playing 4 Song of Freyalise, a card which I continue to believe is actually just bad. Because people try it a lot, and I don't think I've ever seen it actually be good.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's tough because the third chapter is really good if you have a board. It's kind of a free big attack usually, but I don't know. I've not played it in Constructed. I don't think I can speak to its strengths or weaknesses that much, to be honest.
The sideboard is like pretty normal. Has some like stuff to be a bit more aggressive, and some like stuff like Citywide Bust as like a one-sided Wrath. And then it has 2 Divine Visitations, which is the enchantment that makes all your token makers into angels.
Oh my gosh.
And it has a Camaraderie. Both of those seem like aimed at the green-white mirror to me.
For sure.
In the green-white mirror, if like you Divine Visitation and then your opponent's like, March of the Multitudes, make 6 1/1s, and you're like, okay, March of the Multitudes, make 6 angels.
Yeah, that seems pretty sick.
Like, Flying Vigilant Angels seem like insane in the green-white mirror.
Yeah.
Maybe it's good elsewhere as well. I haven't really thought about it too deeply, but it could be good against red decks, but I feel like a 5-mana enchantment that doesn't impact the board is probably a bit awkward against red decks.
They also have some Legion's Landings, a Make a Stand. Love that card. Karn, Lyra, the usual suspects.
Yeah, stuff you would expect to see. 3 Sorcerer Spyglass. The next list is Treasure Red, which
by GMF.
By GMF. It's playing. This is the list I think makes the best use of Experimental Frenzy, although I do think it has no Runaway Steamkins in it, and that is my big takeaway, that I think this list should just have Runaway Steamkin in it.
Yeah, instead it's running so it's got the usual red suspects again, but it's got Captain Lannery stored 2 copies, Direfleet Daredevil 2 copies, 2 copies of Dismissive Pyromancer. I just think some of those should be a 4 of Runaway Steamkin, and then you have Fight with Fire, Lava Coil, your burn. And then it's got Treasure Map.
Yeah.
Alongside 3 main deck Experimental Frenzies.
So I think
trying to abuse that.
Yeah. So it's clear to me, playing Lightning Strikes and Shocks instead of Shivan Fires and Lava Coils. He's playing Lava Coils as well, but playing the Lightning Strikes is indicative to me that they want to abuse it for Experimental Frenzy, because they want to make it as powerful as possible. Or they make it as realistic as possible for them to just chain spells. So if you hit a Shivan Fire and your opponent has no creatures to kill, you've stopped your Experimental Frenzy.
Yeah.
Right? That's it. You have to draw past that card. Dismissive Pyromancer does kind of let you help with that. So that's that card does work well with Experimental Frenzy, because it lets you clear bad cards off the top of your deck.
Yeah, it's fair if you run into a couple lands or something like that.
Yeah. The Treasure Map also helps a lot with that by scrying stuff away.
And later on drawing it if you need to just clear the card.
Yeah, absolutely. Treasure Map's really good with Experimental Frenzy. Also, it makes more mana, which is good with Experimental Frenzy. So does Lannery Storm. So these cards all work, and I think that this is a really cool shell to abuse Experimental Frenzy. But I just want to put Steamkin in it, because I think that card is also really good at abusing Experimental Frenzy, and I want to put that alongside all these other things.
For sure. In the sideboard, they put another Direfleet Daredevil. Maybe this is for control matchups. I don't know.
I mean, it depends how good you think a 2/1 First Strike is.
Yeah, that's fair. And then
it's
you
good
have
against History of Benalia.
Yeah, that's true. Then there's fiery cannonades, some crater makers, and 4 sentinel totems, which I assume are there for the graveyard decks, right?
I mean, I think that people have just speculatively put graveyard hate in their sideboards because
they assume the Izoni decks.
Well, because they just don't know what people are going to be doing. Really, I feel like it's the Wild West right now. So like you're going into the queues and you're like, I don't know if I'll run into some busted graveyard deck.
Yeah, that's fair.
And there are like these Izoni decks out there that you do want to like have some graveyard hate against.
The next one is You Mad Bro, which is Junk Knights.
Yeah,
Abzan Knights. Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. 4 Knight of Autumn, Grace, Malice, 4 Pelt Collector, some Dauntless Bodyguards, 4 of Conclave Cavalier, which is the 4/4 for 4 that splits into 2 2/2s. We've been calling it Wormcoil Engine.
Wormcoil Centaur. It also every part of that body has vigilance.
Yes.
And is a knight.
Yes. So 2 Johnnies, you must have some history of Benalias in this one. Flower and Flourish, Assassin's Trophy.
There's 4 histories.
Yeah. I mean, it seems pretty straightforward.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a pretty cool take on the Knights archetype, where you're pushing it into Abzan. So I think it's to play Knight of Autumn and Conclave Cavalier, which are 2 like big gets as knights.
Mm-hmm. I know this deck curves out at 4, but I feel like 22 lands with 3 colors seems pretty ambitious.
Bear in mind that they are playing 3 Flower Flourish, which is kind of like Evolving Wilds.
Yeah, I guess that's true. That's a fair point.
Flower Flourish isn't a total... Like, it's not... They're not playing effectively 25 lands, but they're playing somewhere above 22. I would say it's something like 23 and a half.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay. There's only 14 cards in their sideboard.
Yeah, so, maybe they missed one out.
Yeah, they missed one out, must have. Looks like, again, more of the same. There's a fine finality in there.
2 fine finalities.
Seal Away, and then...
3 Lyra Dawnbringers for the red deck.
Yeah, Lyra, Shalai, Assassin's Trophy. So be it. Duress. Okay. The next one is another one of these kind of Abzan mid-rangey decks with Vraska, Relic Seeker, Ravenous Chupacabras.
It is again white exclusively for Night of Autumn in the main deck, I believe.
I mean, maybe this is the truth. Maybe there's something real going on here.
Maybe. I mean, Night of Autumn is very versatile. Like I say, you need to want the Disenchant, but all of its modes are like reasonable.
Mm-hmm.
This deck is also playing Isareth. So I'm playing 1 Find Broker as a concession to the fact that you have to play like white lands in your deck. I believe. But yeah, it seems pretty good. It's like like you say, it's a bit more tuned against the aggressive decks, I think. It's playing like Seeker Squire and Wild Growth Walker and Jade Light Ranger. It has like some Merfolk Branch Walkers. It has like an Explore package to gain life off its Wild Growth Walker and grow it into like a big blocker. It's also playing 4 Find Finality in the main deck.
Yeah.
And aside from 2 Ravenous Chupacabra, it is playing no cheap interaction at all.
Yeah.
It's purely relying on its creatures to like shore itself up against the aggressive red decks. It's playing 4 Vraska's Contempts and 4 Find Finalities, and like a Vraska Relic Seeker and the 2 Chupacabras and 3 other Scribbles.
So top heavy. That seems really top heavy to me. I think the only thing I really want to say about this deck is that interesting sideboard choice here.
Yeah.
Fall of Thran.
Fall of the Thran is in the sideboard, which I guess is like sick against control decks.
Yeah.
Like, okay, so you have a cool big board against control, and
it's so much mana.
Sure, you're staring at them, and you know they're sitting on a settle.
Yeah.
And you go, okay, cast Fall of the Thran.
Sure.
And then you guarantee getting to attack, and if it resolves, it's insane because you're like, okay, cool, destroy all your lands. Hit you. Next turn,
hit you.
You still can't settle me because you only have 3 lands. Next turn, maybe now you can settle me again. But you just set them back so far.
I think it's going to be pretty hard to resolve 6 mana sorceries against control.
I mean, maybe, but I also think it's like interesting immediately after they've Teferied.
Yeah, I guess that's fair. Like if you have any sort of board, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's especially against blue-white who rely on settle a lot. Yeah. There's reasonable times where you like can use this to force a kill on Teferi or like force through a lot of damage.
Okay, I'm ready to move on to the next deck.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
No More Hawks has...
yeah, I don't know how we even begin to describe this.
It's like, pretty hot nonsense.
It's a Bant deck playing Karn, Teferi, Imara, Soul of the Accord.
Some angels with Lyra Shalai. It's got Urza's Rune as Blast.
Yeah, it has one Urza's Rune as Blast. It has 2 Mox Amber.
A March of the Multitudes.
Yeah, single March of the Multitudes, 2 main deck negates, 4 History Benalias. This is a lot of good cards that I'm not sure taste great together.
Yeah, I don't think this is a very good Teferi deck. I am very skeptical of this, to be perfectly honest.
I still don't...
It just seems like...
I can't read the 2 Mox Amber. Like, I don't really understand
I don't get
what
it
we're
either.
doing with it.
I guess you have 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 legendary creatures.
Yeah, but like 6 of those legendary creatures are the ones that I want to be ramping into.
Yeah, I don't understand it.
Like it counts legendary planeswalkers, right?
Yeah, I believe so. I believe
So
it
it's
does.
like-
So it works with Teferi and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't really understand the Mox Amber, but I clearly don't. I clearly am like not worthy of this deck. So.
Yeah, I was about to say, clearly I don't understand what's going on here. If you have success with this deck...
They have 2
or
Nullhide Ferox on the sideboard? That's so sick. I don't understand. They're playing 18 creatures.
I don't understand either. The next deck, by Anas 1997, pretty straightforward. It's another one of these Boros decks.
It's another Boros deck. It's different enough because it's playing stuff like Goblin Banneret.
And Legion's Landing.
Yeah. And
so
like,
this is more aggressive rather than...
mid-rangey, yeah. You don't see that many like Deafening Clarions in the sideboard of this one.
But overall, it's pretty much the same exact sort of shell. You got Aurelia's Tajiks, the Swiftblade Vindicators. This one has Lightning Strikes. And
Has a Huatli in the sideboard and advances blasting cannons that should probably be an experimental frenzy.
Yeah, I agree with that. Huatli's sort of interesting, but...
Importantly, its History of Benalias are in the sideboard.
Yeah, that is pretty interesting.
Which I think might be wrong.
Yeah, I think it might be wrong as well. Actually, it's just so good.
I kind of feel like you should probably be playing that. Like this, so History of Benalia's dominance, I think, is one of the reasons why we haven't seen that much Tajik, because that card does not look good against History of Benalia.
Yeah, that's fair. As shiny as he is.
Yeah, as shiny as he is, like, they're making a bunch of 2/2s against your 3/2. I know you can give him First Strike, but it's just so much mana to like, make your dude not...
Especially when you want to play creatures.
Yeah. The next one, Toggles Woggle. 5-0'd with a 20 planes, 18 1-drop white weenie deck playing 2 Pride of Conquerors. There is not much to say about this, but it does seem like relatively strong, as long as, like... Red isn't great.
Yeah, I was about to say, I
think... If red is great, then this list is real bad.
You really don't want to play against Deafening Clarion. Just...
You don't want to play against Deafening Clarion, you really don't want to play against Goblin Chain Whirler.
Oh god, yeah. Yeah, that's fair.
This is a very similar list to stuff that we saw in prior standards, where Goblin Chain Whirler was, like, not quite there. Or, like, hadn't quite established its dominance, and people were playing this sort of stuff to some success, because it kind of could actually beat the Control X by being just really fast, and, beat other people by just, like, being relatively resilient. But then, like, the moment your opponent plays Goblin Chain Whirler, it's just like, oh,
I'm dead.
Half my creatures are dead, and all my creatures are dead, and they have a 3/3 first strike, because I can't really attack through profitably. Oh my god.
Sideboard-wise, they have some of Johnny's Baffling Ends, which is interesting. I've played a little bit with their card. Bounty Agent, which it's a white creature.
Kills Lyra.
Yep. Demotion, which is...
Bounty Agent kills Lyra. I think that might be the only one that really comes to mind as like an important legendary thing to kill, but it does also just kill anything legendary, any legendary creatures that your opponents play. It also kills Search for Earth Counter before it flips.
Mm-hmm.
I think the card is just like actually quite good and potentially could be main deckable.
So the next deck is by Ryu Mei. It is a Flame Mikkel deck.
Yeah.
It's just Flame Mikkel. It's got Risk Factor.
Runaway Steamkin.
Yeah, and Runaway Steamkin. And otherwise, that's it. It's literally the same deck we've seen before.
Yeah.
So Risk Factor, if you don't know, that's 3 mana instant, deal 4... Or
it's Browbeat with Jumpstart.
Yeah, it is Browbeat with Jumpstart.
So you cast it, it's 3 mana instant. Your opponent can have the deal 4 damage to them. If they don't, you draw 3 cards. I will say that having Jumpstart does mean make it play better than Browbeat did.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot more punishing.
Like, Punisher effects like this do get better the more of them you cast.
Yeah.
So having this be able to be 2 of them, like, does mean that, like, once your opponent's starting to take 8 in your aggressive red deck, that is a lot.
Yeah, and if not, you're drawing, like, 3 cards. More often than not, I reckon your opponent will take 4, and then you'll draw 3. is usually how this will work out. Unless
my
they are
experience
very
playing
far
against
ahead.
it is that the third risk factor was when they started drawing cards.
Oh, right. Okay. Fair enough.
But I also had quite a lot of control of the game. So
yeah, the sideboard's pretty straightforward. You have some Legion War bosses, some Fire with Fires, Diamond.
4 Diamond. The sideboard is like very. Every time I see a sideboard like this that is like 4-4-4-3, I'm like, yep, this is a first draft.
Yeah.
This is exactly what I do with my first draft, where I'm like, I don't know what I need. I'll have 4 of each of these things, and then 3 of one thing.
The next deck is Zygon Yue.
The last deck, actually.
Is it?
The 26th deck.
Whew, I guess it has been quite the marathon. This is a green-white tokens deck.
Yeah, it's like green-white Convoke. It's playing 4 Trostani Discordant, 4 Venerated Loxodon, and 3 March of the Multitudes. And your plan is to go wide very quickly, and then abuse a lot of the powerful Convoke cards like March, or Conclave Tribunal, or Venerated Loxodon.
Yeah, we tested against this deck last night. It seems good. I like it a lot. It seems powerful, like it's doing powerful stuff. It goes pretty big. So...
I think that March of the Multitudes... So I guess my feeling about March of the Multitudes is I think it just pushes the format in such a way that if you want to be able to beat creature decks, you have to be able to interact with a lot of creatures at once profitably.
Yeah, exactly. I got the same feeling.
Sweepers.
You need Deafening Clearing, you need Chain Whirlers, you need Plague Mirrors, you need Fine Finalities, or some other sweepers.
Cleansing Nova.
Yeah, exactly.
You just need something that interacts profitably against what your opponent is doing.
And even Settle, I think, loses a bit of value because of March of the Multitudes.
Yeah, it's definitely, if your opponent has a lot of what do I call it? Vigilance creatures, for example.
Yeah.
Being able to attack with them into your settle, and then when you settle, tap them to make a bunch of 1/1s is kind of
brutal.
Not exciting. March of the Multitudes being instant speed does also, it allows you to make use of your creatures if you decide not to attack into their settle, kind of thing.
Yeah.
I think that March of the Multitudes in general, I would prefer to be having the small ball instant speed, or even not instant speed, but small ball sweepers, because there's also if you cast cleansing, I guess the sweepers that aren't settle all make March of the Multitudes look bad because it's not like they can tap their creatures to cast March of the Multitudes in response.
Yeah,
because then all their March dudes will die. So whereas settle, you kill all their attackers, but like I say, if they have vigilance, then they can still tap them and make 1/1s, and that doesn't look good for you.
Sideboard-wise, there's some interesting things. The Immortal Sun.
Yeah, I mean, this card does seem really sick.
It just does everything you want it to do, right?
Yeah. It turns off your opponents to fairies and Karns.
All your creatures get bigger, all your creatures get cheaper, and you draw more cards.
Yeah.
That's pretty sick. Carnage Tyrant, good against control. Vivian Reed, another concession there. Lyra, Dawnbringer, Settle the Wreckage, Knight of Autumn. Good sideboard cards against
Dawn of Hope.
And then Divine Visitation.
Yeah, 1 Divine Visitation. Again, this card just seems so sick in the mirror. I think this might be the place where Divine Visitation finds a home if it does.
Yeah.
Which is the sideboard of these sorts of tokeny decks where it's okay, well, we're going post board, and now everyone's prepared for my main game plan, so now I need to make 4 angels instead. So Deafening Clarion looks rubbish.
Yeah, you have Deafening Clarion now, so I'm gonna make 4/4s instead of 1/1s.
Yeah.
Seems legit.
I can buy that.
So
so
looking at the macro level of all this stuff, now that we've gone through everything one by one sort of thing,
there were in this deck lump 14 aggro decks, 10 mid-range decks, and 2 control decks.
I think that's just exactly what you expect right out of the format. We talked about this before, preparing for week 1. It's so much easier to be proactive and find success.
Yes, I also think that a lot of the on-their-face powerful cards from the new set lend themselves to being aggressive, with one major exception.
Yeah.
Which is Assassin's Trophy. But I think Assassin's Trophy also slots into aggressive decks that are capable of playing its colours.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it's just cheap interaction.
So what were the most represented colours?
So there were 15 decks playing white, 11 decks playing red, and 11 decks playing green. Those by far are the 3 colours that saw the most representation. There were 9 decks playing black, and only 6 decks playing blue.
Makes sense. I mean, control's hard to do in week 1.
Well, there was one blue aggro deck.
Oh yeah, Tempest Djinn.
But for the most part, blue was relegated entirely to an either mid-range, and even when it was mid-range, it was a more controlling mid-range or control role.
Yeah, for sure. In terms of cards, what were the sort of most popular cards that people were playing in the deck dump?
So, from what I saw, and I didn't actually go through every single card, I went through all the cards that I thought that I was like interested in. Okay, how is this card doing?
Yeah, for sure.
But so the most popular card,
a curated list.
Yeah, I believe the most popular card I looked at by far was History of Benalia, which had 32 copies played main deck and 7 copies played across sideboards.
That's so many Histories of Benalia.
Given that we just went over one of the lists that was playing 4 sideboard and said these should probably be main deck, this should be, in my opinion, a 36 main deck History of Benalias and 3 sideboard. The 3 sideboard were in the blue-white control deck.
So that's 9 decks were...
10 decks. 10 decks. So there were 10... This is across 10 decks that we saw History of Benalia, and there were 32 main deck and then 7 sideboard in the actual way that it was
That's
done.
Pretty wild.
Yeah.
The History of Benalia is doing well.
I think that the thing I take away from this is that History of Benalia is both one of the best aggressive things to be doing and also one of the best things to be doing against aggressive decks.
Yeah, for sure. It's a good way of putting up a wall. It's a good way of grinding value. It's just a good card.
Yeah.
It's strong, and it's on game plan if you're trying to beat down as well.
Yeah. After that, Chain Whirler was the next most represented card that I looked at. However, the drop is enormous with 5 Chain Whirler decks, but no Chain Whirlers in sideboards. 20 Chain Whirlers main deck. So there were 5
Chain
decks.
Whirler is not dead.
5 decks playing Chain Whirler, and all of them were playing 4 copies. I also honestly think that some of the decks that weren't playing Chain Whirler probably should have been. I kind of have a feeling with some of these Boros decks that we looked at, where they just don't really have a very good way of beating March of the Multitudes.
Yeah.
And I think that it's possible that you just drop some of your white creatures
and just play Chain Whirler.
Yeah, and just because I just don't see that there's that much to gain from playing the maybe slightly higher power level, but maybe not white creatures over just putting enough mountains in your deck to support Chain Whirler.
Or you can just play Deafening Clarion main deck.
I mean that's true, but I think that's a very different style of deck.
Either way, a lot of people speculated that Chain Whirler would go down in popularity.
I mean, this is going down.
It is. It's not oppressive anymore, but
it's definitely still a part of the format.
Yeah.
After that was Assassin's Trophy, which still play in 5 decks, with 17 main deck copies and 2 sideboard copies, and Vraska's Contempt with 16 main deck copies and 2 sideboard copies, also across 5 decks.
So this will be from all of our black mid-range decks, all the blue-black and green-black stuff.
Yeah, we saw a lot of green-black. Interestingly, I believe there was more green-black decks than there were Assassin's Trophy decks.
Yep.
Some of them just weren't playing Assassin's Trophy. I feel like the card is people haven't quite settled on exactly where it should be just yet in Standard. It's definitely powerful, but I've played games where my opponent blew up my Sarkhan on turn 3 with Assassin's Trophy, and I was like, cool. Play Teferi?
Oh god, that's disgusting.
Yeah.
The ramp is a real cost. You really don't want to use Assassin's Trophy before turn 5, turn 4.
I think that's definitely the case.
If you can avoid it, obviously. Sometimes you're gonna face things. It's okay, if I don't kill this, I just die. But
yeah, interesting things. Steamkin. So Runaway Steamkin was in 3 decks, and there were 12 copies, all of the main deck. Steel Leaf Champion was in 2 decks. There were 8 copies across those 2 decks, and all of them were main deck. There were 11 Teferis across 4 decks, with 10 in the main deck and 1 in the sideboard.
Was that crazy bant list?
I think it was the bant list playing the Teferi in the sideboard.
And then Aurelia?
Yeah, Aurelia and Tajik. Aurelia had 10 copies, all main deck across 4 decks, and Tajik had 9 copies across 3 decks, all main deck.
I can dig it.
Experimental Frenzy had 5 main deck copies and 4 sideboard copies across 4 decks. I would expect these numbers to go up.
Okay. You think this card is just awesome?
I think this card's great.
Okay.
There were 8 Khans across 4 decks, 4 main deck, 4 sideboard, and there were only 4 Nicol Boluses across 1 deck.
Yeah, Nicol Bolas' stock has gone down quite a bit. I am still thinking that Nicol Bolas will find a shell.
I mean, I think that right now, we've just talked about how much easier it is to be aggressive. It's also so much easier to be 2 colors.
Yeah.
The number of decks, I think there were only 3 or 5 3-color decks in this whole dump. And only one of those was Grixis. So I think that it's so much easier to have the mana base worked out for a 2-color deck or a mono-color deck with week 1 than it is for a 3-color deck. Not to mention a 3-color deck that specifically supports Nicol Bolas.
Yeah, that's a fair point. I mean, I think it's obviously in like the right shard for mana, isn't it?
Yes, as long as you are prepared to be like base blue.
Yeah.
You can definitely cast Nicol Bolas. But I mean, we've talked about these like 4-color decks. I genuinely think that the mana is there for like 4-color Nicol Bolas decks that play like Nicol Bolas and Teferi or Nicol Bolas and Assassin's Trophy.
Nicol Bolas and Deafening Clarion.
Yeah, I think you can do that. I think that like there's lots of options available, and I think that we will start to see those. But I think that those sorts of decks take a bit more time to figure out than the aggro decks do in week 1, and often like lose more to unrefined nonsense than aggro decks do.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, if your opponent's playing like a lot of weird stuff because they're trying it all out, and you give them a lot more time to do that because you're like a big slow mid-range deck, then like they get punished less for having like bad mana or a relatively slow game plan. Whereas if you're just like, okay, cool, play a 1-drop, play a 2-drop, play Goblin Chainwhirler, kill you, then like they get punished much more for having bad mana or for having a slow game time.
For sure.
In terms of archetypes, this isn't really archetypes, it's just like a final takeaway. There are about 7 like red X aggro decks.
Yeah.
And this is including some decks I would classify as like red-white.
Is this like the Goblins deck? I count that as red-white?
No. So I was saying that would be what I would classify as red X.
Okay.
I was saying that I was also counting in red X like some of the Boros decks that were pretty evenly split.
Yeah, for sure.
6 white X aggro decks. Again, there's some crossover there between like I counted the Boros decks twice for these.
Yeah, for sure.
4 green X aggro decks. 6 2-color mid-range decks, 4 3-color mid-range decks, and 2 control decks. And then this isn't exhaustive. There are lots of things not covered in that. In those like archetypes. Like that doesn't count the mono blue tempo list. For example.
For sure.
And it doesn't really know what to do with some of the weirder Zoni or Stitch Supplier lists.
Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty excited from some of the stuff that's come out of this. I think the format's pulling it in a couple of different directions. There's a lot of aggro right now. That's nothing surprising. I'm pretty happy about this. I feel like there's a lot of different ways you can build the same decks as well.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. Or like different ways you can go with similar cards and take them to different places. Like the big Boros deck versus the very low to the ground Boros decks. Or even I've designed some Boros tokens deck. Spoilers, they can't beat the green-white. It's a version of that deck. But, you know, I mean, there's a lot of variants there. Or even, like, the green-white or Abzan Knights versus, like, the green-white tokens. It's really cool.
Yeah. No, I think that the format right now looks really, like, cool and a bit open. And I'm really excited to see, like, the next decklist dump and see what people have how people have reacted to this.
Mm-hmm.
And what people feel is, like, the right way to move forward in this. Because it's so varied. I mean, it's clear that, like, Boros is, like, the big name here. Mm-hmm. From the number of things in the dump. But it depends, like, do people become more focused on playing, like, good Boros lists? Do people start to play, like, control decks to beat up on Boros? Or, like, do people start playing, like, bigger green mid-range decks? Are those going against Boros? Like, does green-white just become, like, the de facto mid-range deck of choice?
I think there's also, like, lurking underneath as well, just the Steel Leaf Zombie decks. Yeah. I actually just think... I think it's there. I think this dump was really deceptive. We've talked about it already, but if I was going to an event this weekend or next weekend, I'd be prepared for Steel Leaf Stompy.
Yeah.
And have that definitely in my mind as something I need to worry about. If I can take a strategy that's good against Steel Leaf Stompy and Boros aggro, or has game against go wide strategies, I would take that.
Yeah, I think I agree. I mean, that's all the information we've got so far. The new format looks really interesting. Lots of cards that I don't think people expected, doing some really good work. Lots of cards people did expect, doing some really good work. Really excited to cast Experimental Frenzies in my future, because that card seems real sweet.
And you can get all your Experimental Frenzies, or other great cards like Aurelia and Tajik, from murphysvault.com.
Yep. Where you can find not only their singles, but also their event tickets, and also any articles. By following the link on the banner there.
You can also get sealed product and all that kind of good stuff. All the gaming accessories you need, really.
Yeah, or cards and cards accessories.
Cards and cards accessories.
Yeah.
Was that a King of the Hill joke?
Maybe.
Cards and cards accessories. Like that?
What's King of the Hill? Is it a Halo game, man?
No, it's not.
I mean, I think it might be.
I mean, it probably is. There's a game called King of the Hill. It's what the show is named after.
What? Is this an American thing?
Damn it, Nathaniel!
Okay, I think that's probably where we're going to leave you this week. Please check out our sponsor, Murphy's Vault. Please follow us on Twitter. I am at IronsideF, or at F_Ironside. I don't know my own Twitter handle, apparently. And Holt Hauser can be found at...
Captain Powerhouse. CAPN Power HAUS.
Yeah. Please like and subscribe and smash the follow button. And do all the things to engage with us.
As you can.
Yeah.
Just talk to us. We're so lonely.
We always like to hear feedback and people talking about stuff and comments, and yeah, just give us a smash or something. Whatever.
Give us a smash.
Whatever they say.
Okay. Sure thing.
Yeah. We have been From the Vault, and you have been fantastic.